back, one and all, to Soul Mechanics. A pleasure to have you. Please step into our office and have a motherfucking seat. Now, here's what's going on here. Sweetie Cheeks kind of liked doing that video, so she's going to go ahead and hijack the reality checks course for the most part. I mean, I'll probably still do reality checks every now and then if I catch one, but what we're going to do is the actual, like, just deadpan response videos to clips we haven't seen before, and perhaps, like, for this one, we're going to kind of be doing an overall thing for the channel itself, but we're going to be reacting to this one video that we have not seen before. It's new to us. We don't know what's going to be in here. Mostly, I've seen bits and pieces.
Well,
of it,
that's not true. I've watched 4 minutes.
Yeah, we've watched a little bit of it, but I have to say that, you know, the initiative is inclusive for all peoples. Even if you're like heavily religious, you're welcome aboard. If we disagree with your ideals or what have you, then you know, we want to unite everybody in a kind and loving manner. But there are going to be 3 particular castes of people that we cannot afford to tolerate. 1, hate mongers. 2, cultists. And 3, frauds. So, especially frauds in our field. And we're going to set an example here by actually going after someone who seems to be one of our own. We don't know, this person might be religious.
I wouldn't say go after.
Well, yeah, but if it's not a fraud, fine. If it's good shit, great, that's fine. But if it is a fraud, we have to nail it. And we can't let that shit slide. We can't have people out there pretending or you know, just scamming people in the name of our cause, trying to tell people that they're fighting for unity and love, and telling people outright lies. We certainly can't have cultists out there indoctrinating people. We've got enough of that left and right, and we're going to fucking point that out as best we can with this channel. But again, she's going to be helping us along with the reality check. We got this beautiful setup, this kind of studio that it's absolutely clean. The whole thing is clean. But yeah, so what we're going to do is react to, I wanted to say, anybody out there, we want you to send us videos. In the comments, post us videos that you would like for us to react to. Links to videos that you'd like us to react to, please. That's going to be perfect. That's what we want to do here. But for now, we're just going to pick shit out at random. We have a few things in mind. We're going to begin with this one, which is, what are we called here?
The channel is Off the Left Eye. He has 75,000 subscribers.
Damn, that's a lot of people to be scamming. Maybe he's not a scam, we don't know.
Hey, you know, 1,500 people liked this video, so, you know. But it seems to be of religious content,
yeah,
somewhat.
That's what, we thought this guy was just like a general spiritualist, but it seems like he might be actually, in a sense, because he's writing his own books and such, but he's very religious, and they're leaning towards the biblical aspect of religion, which of course we touched on before, but we thought this guy was just kind of talking about like NDs and what happens after you die, but he's really leaning towards the religious context. So he's not necessarily one of our own in a sense. I guess that's tricky area to say. The heavily religious people, as I said, they're welcome aboard, but they are in a sense fighting against us. They're fighting for division. They're fighting for negativity and fraudulence.
Well, it's not fair to pin everybody under one generalization.
It's going to be
right. People don't know the difference.
Exactly. It's going to be the actual cultist aspect of it itself. It's not the people. It's the system.
No. And as we were discussing earlier, that most people aren't walking around extremist and, you know, with these crazy beliefs. Most people are in their day-to-day, love in their heart. They just want to take care of their families. They don't care what kind of labels or whatever you put upon them or themselves, you know. So I don't want to get too like attacky. I feel bad. I don't want to attacky type.
No, well, you're the balancing effect. She's the sweet, awesome, emotional battery, and I'm the sharp cynical mentality.
Well, I got a little bit of that cynical. Anyway, the name of this video, the title of it is What Happens Immediately After You Die?
Immediately.
Swedenborg and life, and I'm getting the impression that Swedenborg is a person?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's this woman.
Okay, so not sure who that is.
We're gonna find out together.
Yeah, I guess so. So, you know, most of the videos on his page were pretty, I can't think of the word, just, you know, not super weird, just kind of talking about, you know, biblical stuff, which is fine, the symbology of it and what kind of stuff is in the Bible or whatever, but two titles jumped out at me immediately, which is this one, the What Happens Immediately After You Die, very specific, and I thought, you know what, we all really need to know about that. Yeah. And the other one was, What is Hell Really Like?
He's got hell, What is Hell Really Like coming out, so look forward to that.
You really want to know. You should know. We should all know, you know, just in case.
These are things we need to know.
Yeah.
What happens immediately after you die.
I like how he used immediately and then what is hell really like?
Yeah,
that's so
like
funny.
He knows.
He knows, and he's going to tell us all, yes.
But what is hell really like is implying that you don't know.
Right. Because I mean, it would be easy just to label your video, what is hell like? But you put the really in there, and it's like all of a sudden you know better than everybody else.
You might be mistaken.
Exactly, and so you're here to clear it up for everybody. So he's here to clear up what happens immediately after you die. Oh. Not what happens after you die, what happens immediately.
And point of fact right here, what we need to be talking about is I've seen this twice now where this video pops up on my phone, on Liara, and on this tablet is Neil Donald Walsh is going to pop up with this as a recommended video. So that
makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense, but that's because there's an association between it, and if this guy's a fucking fraud scam artist,
well,
that's...
You gotta
keep
in mind that, you know, if there isn't, you know, little people that are doing, it's all AI,
exactly, yeah.
You know, stuff, and so the title of his first book was Conversations with God, which would imply that it's a very religious kind of thing, but you open that book up, and there is no religious aspect.
Right.
It's
they
all
don't even bother talking
stuff.
about religion, really.
No Bible, no nothing. It's for everybody. It's for everybody.
But what I'm saying is that there's going to be an association. Like this guy's going to be associated to the spiritualist community for the most part.
Which is fine.
Technically, we are the spiritualist community, I guess you could say. The initiative is really just investigators.
I wish I knew what this dude's name was, because honestly, he could be a perfectly pleasant human being with love in his heart.
But he looks like he's on dope.
Yeah, he looks a little creepy.
Dude looks like he's whacked on something.
Whatever.
He's happy about this, I'll tell you that much. He's having a ball.
So let's find out what happens immediately after you die. So far, you have your own personal angels.
Yeah,
two of them.
You have two personal angels.
That protect you from the evil spirits.
Because they're evil spirits.
Obviously. And what was the other thing? Well, he opens up talking about near-death experience, reports, accounts of near-death experiences, which is fine. No, I mean that's an interesting topic. I mean that's cool. Let's talk about that. Right, that's a fascinating topic.
I've had several near-death experiences.
And people always say, but my initial thought when the first 2 minutes of it, he I think reads verbatim from two specific near-death experiences, and he names the people and everything and whatever. And it sounded to me like accounts of people that have done like ayahuasca and DMT.
Right.
That's basically what it reminded me of.
So.
And it made me wonder, if you put that in front of this guy, is he going to say, "Oh no, that's flim flam and hokum"?
Or casting.
You know, our thing is you know, it has to be religious.
If somebody does ayahuasca or DMT, or if somebody does magics and casting, are this guy going to say that that's the work of the devil, even if it agrees with him?
Just something that I wondered about.
Yeah, exactly.
But
that's
I have no way of
speculation.
Knowing. Yes, have no way of knowing. And I think you'll find that a lot of this is speculation.
All right, let's continue.
It's time to speculate.
The scent of a dead body comes across as sweet. If evil spirits smell it, they cannot come near. The angels take the greatest...
What the fuck are you talking
Oh
about,
my god,
dude?
excuse my laughter. I feel bad laughing at this guy. So the scent of a dead body is sweet. Everybody knows that, right? Like, what?
So you said it just like
You
that.
go into the morgue and it's like, ooh, who's making cookies?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
The scent of a dead body is sweet. Everybody knows that.
It is very sweet that it attracts all the evil spirits. And
No, he said the evil spirits are afraid of it. They can't go near it.
then why do we need the angels to protect us
Let's
from the
find
evil
out.
spirits?
Let's find out.
Okay, all right.
Is care at this point to prevent any idea from rising out of us, unless it is a fairly gentle, loving one. These angels will help you detach from physical existence and ease into spiritual existence by staying connected with the best and deepest stuff in your heart. And the process is gentle. During this first phase, it seems like you'll actually be in more of a dreamlike state, doing more feeling than looking around and observing things. But
Look at his
when
eyes.
you're ready, they'll wake up your mind. A different set of angels at Swedenborg called spiritual angels will come and help you with this next stage.
Wait,
So
there's two non-spiritual angels?
Yeah, who the fuck are these guys?
And then you get two spiritual angels. So all in all, you have your own four personal
Portrait
angels.
of impersonal angels that are just waiting on you, doting.
But what is a non-spiritual
Exactly.
angel?
If these angels are not spiritual, should I trust them?
That's so weird. Well, I don't know. They keep the spirits away, right? The bad ones.
I guess because they smell
The thing
sweet.
that happens in the afterlife is symbolic, and Swedenborg experienced this awakening in a very tangible way.
When heavenly angels are with people who have been awakened, they do not leave them, because they love everyone. But some spirits are simply unable to be in the company of heavenly angels very long, and want them to leave. When this happens, angels from the Lord's spiritual kingdom arrive, through whom we are granted the use of light, since before this we could not see anything but could only think. I was also shown how this is done. It seemed as though the angels rolled back a covering from my left eye toward the center of my nose, so that my eye was opened and able to see. To the spirit, it seems as though this were actually happening, but it is only apparently so. As this covering seemed to be rolled back, I could see a kind of clear but dim light, like the light we see through our eyelids when we are first waking up. It seemed to me as though this clear, dim light had a heavenly color to it, but I was later told that this varies. After that, it felt as though something were being rolled gently off my face, and once this was done, I had access to spiritual thought. This rolling something off the face is an appearance, for it represents the fact that we are moving from natural thinking to spiritual thinking.
Okay.
Angels take the greatest care to shield the...
There's a lot of interesting things here. Now, this is very similar to what people do experience in,
Yeah,
in
he's
things
talking
like
about
DMT.
light. I mean, that's a common
And you do get a kind of revealing. Him saying that all you could do is think. That, to me, really speaks to the nature of us living in this reality wherein pretty much, as I've stated, with the doctrine on value and aspects, we see the aspects of a thing. Pretty much we're seeing our thoughts about a thing. We see reality through filters of our intelligence that we've built through our personality. We only see
you can
our mind.
Yeah, you can only.
Right, we only see our own mind, and I've spoken to this before.
Well, you
how,
say see, but I think it's experience. I mean, you don't know.
Yeah, we'll see in
what's
see in
beyond your preconceived notions and your.
We only
what,
perceive.
what we refer to as filters.
Yeah, we only
of,
perceive our own mind.
Right. So the really real reality is like out beyond that somewhere. And it's like we were talking about earlier with the simulation theory that we're living in a simulation. I mean, you couldn't ever really know.
No. And what we're seeing right there with the simulation theory, just to touch on that for a second,
It's kind of similar, like a heaven kind of
we're
situation.
seeing our own mind because our technology has gotten to this point where we can imagine building these simulations, and media has taken over with movies like The Matrix and 13th Floor, and we play video games all the time.
Artificial intelligence.
Right, so we have this idea of this, but it's not a new idea. It's the same idea we've always had, just in a different format.
Just in
and
digital,
right.
in a digital way.
We're living in a digital world, literally, and that's what we're seeing. We're being screened out of reality.
But that's just us. That's adapting. I mean,
yeah.
That's, you know, the world around us is becoming more and more digital, and
right.
so obviously the filters through which we experience reality, so to speak, would be more heavily influenced by things that are digitally acquired.
Right, and that's what we're seeing. We're seeing our thoughts on the matter. We're seeing the aspects that we attach to a thing. We see the idea of heaven, of some afterlife, of some other realm, and we attach our own aspects to it, which at this point, the aspects that we're attaching is the idea of being in this simulation. So that's what we're seeing, and a lot of people are going to believe that, but if you look at it, the theory they have doesn't make fucking lick of sense. It does not play at all.
I like the symbology where he's talking about the thing being lifted off of your eyeballs,
right.
you know, I mean, that's extremely symbolic of
right.
many different experiences, not just death, but then again, the whole death thing is, to me, death is change. When you psychologically, when you look at the 5 stages of dealing with death, that happens every time anything changes. Our human condition, we go through those stages anytime something changes in our lives in a microcosmic kind of way, which is interesting.
Exactly,
so to me, it just seems as if, you know, people talk about death, I just think of it as it's a change. It's
Ariel
something
used
that's
to
different.
say that
a transformation, I guess you would say.
Ariel used to say for a spotter, you have to be careful because death is hiding around every corner waiting for you.
Whoa.
And I think that she meant that. I think she meant that to redefine our concept of what death is, that we die all the time.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Like even if you yourself have a change in your own personality or your way of thinking or the way that you deal with things, but also in the world around you, you know, I mean, even my cat, like, gets freaked out if we change the furniture around. Like, that's her going through her 5 stages of dealing with death, right? Because it's just basically, it shouldn't even be called the 5 stages of you know, dealing with death. It should be the 5 stages of dealing with change, because that's what is happening every time anything changes.
And we could redefine our concept of death in the sense that death is a change and it's not necessarily something to be feared. Obviously, you would lose your life for the most part, but who knows?
Well,
Let's find
I don't know,
out.
but you don't know that either.
Exactly.
And so we're saying that, you know, we're laughing at this guy,
right?
But we're on the same level as he is. You know, we don't know any more or less than he does.
Exactly. But that's the thing that we need to point out. That's what we really need to get at, is that we cannot go ahead and, I'm sorry.
No.
We cannot have our people that are on this path trying to get this done, going out and asserting that they know these things. This dude doesn't know what's going to happen when he dies. He's had an experience. It could be anything. It could be...
No, to be fair, he's actually just kind of reporting on other experiences that he's
No, I'm talking about the dude
of.
who's actually had the experience.
Right.
He's just had an experience. I've had near-death experiences on several occasions. Some of them were different than others. A lot of them were the same, though. That's why I tend to think that I did experience something that could be real to a certain extent.
Well,
but at the same time, it's filtered.
The NDEs come out in a lot of different areas, like I said earlier. The ayahuasca experiences, the DMT, what was the other one? Alien abductions. Some of those alien abductions sound exactly like the near-death experience stuff. You know, oh, it's a white light. Oh, it's a overwhelming feeling of love.
And there's
you know, this heavenly entity that's watching you and communicating with you. Those experiences come out of all kinds of
start having
shit.
The upshot of alien abductions was just around and after the Roswell incident. So we had our psychological filters attached to an experience we were having, and it became abduction, an experience that people have been having throughout history forever.
Yeah, they just attached a different reasoning.
Just decided that it is
it's because
abduction.
of this thing, but after Barney and Betty Hill was like,
yeah,
like Reefer Madness, but with aliens.
The awakening person from any concept that does not taste of love. Then they tell the individual that he or she is a spirit.
For what it's worth, did you notice that line in the beginning? That account, in case you're wondering, is where this channel got its name. Once your spiritual sight and your intellectual thinking become clear, you will be completely welcomed by these spiritual angels. Swedenborg learned that our character flaws and issues don't all just disappear after death. They come with us, but in this first stage of welcome into the afterlife, God holds that stuff in check. And this allows us to be in the company of angels. And
so, what about the evil sinners that get sent to hell? You know what I mean? Like, don't worry, God's gonna keep your character flaws in check until you are able to communicate with, spiritual angels or whatever, which sounds all fucking fine and dandy until you start talking about the subsection of people that you've condemned in this school of thought.
And what's going to go on with them? Are they like waiting to be judged by God, like they're being tricked into thinking everything's okay,
and they're going to be going to heaven or something? And
it seems like
there's extremes, obviously, to that. I mean, everybody wants to think that, a child molester is going to be tortured for eternity. Obviously, that's a comforting feeling.
Why?
Because...
Why is that a comforting feeling?
Because imagining somebody hurting a child like that is so traumatizing to even think about.
Right.
That it's a revenge story. You want to get revenge on that person, that's what it is.
Think about it even deeper than that.
But
why
then again,
do we want revenge on people?
There's many reasons why we have, revenge stories.
But where does revenge come from? The concept of revenge. Why do we want that? Why is that a plausible answer? A plausible solution to the problem?
That's an interesting question.
That's going to be the value that you're looking for.
Maybe it's just a human. It's one of our fucking human things.
It could be something that was built in throughout our evolution that,
Because it seems petty and it's a waste of time. And as we all know or should be aware, revenge is a never-ending cycle of a bunch of waste of fucking time and effort and energy.
That's why it's eternal damnation. See,
right, it can never ever end. That is perfect. It is eternal because it can never end. You just keep going revenge back and forth and back and forth.
That's where the concept of hell is going to have come from, is vengeance, revenge.
That's interesting.
Thinking that God is human and wants to have revenge on
God
is not human.
Right. Why would he want, why would he, capital H. That's so weird. But so, when you think about, like, a child molester or somebody going to hell and being revenged upon for eternity, but then you remember that, like, the Catholics, like, condemn people to hell for all kinds of fucking weird shit, like... If you commit suicide, or if you, eat meat on Friday, or what,
dye your hair green.
Whatever these weird rules are. I'm not a religious person. I've never read the Bible. I mean, like, the whole thing. I don't know a lot about Judaism or Catholicism or anything like that, so I don't personally know. I can't really speak to that, but in, just my thinking, it's funny, because you've got this set of people that are damned, and some of them have harmed, little kids in horrifying ways, and some of them just made choices that didn't hurt anybody. Like, everything is cool, but they're still a piece of shit. Like,
at the same time, you've had people who have incited mass murder on behalf of the Bible, and they're scot-free. Right.
Yeah, that's a little weird too. And isn't there a thing about, like, wearing certain fabrics, and, like, you're allowed to beat your wife, but you can only hit her 10 times, or, like, crazy shit like that from the Bible. And I know that's all Old Testament stuff, but it's hard to separate that when you hear religious people going around talking about love your neighbor and blah blah blah, and then that stuff is also right there next to
love
it.
Love your neighbor, but God hates gays.
Yes, it's very, it's contradictory, and it's very weird, and I'm all for love your neighbor, sure, I think that's a great fucking rule that's awesome. The 10 Commandments, sure, they seem perfectly innocent, but
he also has a video titled "Should You Love Everybody Equally" or something to that effect.
Yeah, should you love everyone the same?
And
which I thought was weird.
So
23 minutes.
I'd like to go ahead and define the soul mechanics
should you love
concept of what love is. Love is not some affectionate affirmation. Love is not like I love sweetie cheeks, but you know, it's not like a romantic thing either. It's like love is an unconditional investment.
State of unconditionality.
Yeah, so it's an investment.
Unconditional whatever.
It's an investment in something unconditionally. So like you can hate something and be loving towards it. You can love to hate something, and that's
I think a lot of people.
That's why everything.
Are familiar with that feeling of loving to hate something, or vice versa.
Everything is love
Hating
in this sense because everything that you give a shit about is love. Anything that you're invested in is you loving it to a certain extent. So the key here is, what do you love and why?
Funnily enough, you brought up Neil Donald Walsh earlier, and it was in his book, I believe, where he basically explains and breaks down that if you boil down to the very basic nuts and bolts of the way that our emotional system works, there is only two emotions. You either fear or you love.
Love or fear.
Everything stems from those two things,
and
that fucking works, dude. When you start thinking about situations, you can always boil it down to one of those.
The only reason you wouldn't be invested in something you care about is fear. So. And
even if you don't know it. But that as soon as I read that when I was in high school, I remember, and it just hits you like a ton of bricks, that book. It's fantastic.
I heavily recommended Conversations with God, Neil Donald Walsh. That's one of the best books I've ever read in my life.
Every chapter is like a different thing, but when he boils down the love and fear thing, think about it in your life when you experience something or a situation that you're aware of somebody that you know, or something happens or whatever. Boil that shit down because it works. It's like that you can apply the scientific method to that in a way, and it works. That dude knows what he's talking about. It's fantastic.
It's going to be where we, for the anybody who's a part of the initiative or anybody who wants to follow along, dude. It's
That's
just
the beginning.
Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh, Celestine Prophecy by James Redfield, our Way of the Peaceful Warrior by Danny Millman. Those are three. And then What the Bleep Do You Know? That movie will fucking rock your shit.
Well, that's the law of attraction.
Yeah, that's the law of attraction and quantum mechanics.
With
it gets you familiar with quantum mechanics and neurophysiology.
The quantum mechanics aspect of it is very cool, but jury's still out on law of attraction. There's a lot of conflicting.
Well, that's what we're doing with soul mechanics.
Theories
is we're
about
trying to nail that
this
down.
law of attraction thing, which honestly, I thought I kind of thought the same thing about the love and fear thing, that if you start applying that law of attraction, it can work, and a synchronicity is a big part of that, and it basically hinges completely on synchronicity and your ability to see synchronicities in your own life. But there's some people, very smart people, that are kind of unsure about the law of attraction, and there's a little bit of conflicting ideals there, which is an interesting thing to dive into and check out.
That's what I developed the doctrine on value and aspects for, is I believe that's the key to understanding it. And I'm thinking that, as I've stated before, experience is made of implications. It's not what you say, it's not what you voice so much as what you imply by it.
I love how people miss that so much. I get a lot of that with my family, that they don't get the difference between outright saying things and implying things. Yeah. It's like they don't even know the difference, and it's so funny because if you throw that away, shit gets really confusing. You know what I mean? If you throw away the concept of implication itself, then you are in a very precarious position inside your own head.
I
Like,
think
nothing fucking makes sense. And it's so funny to watch people chase their own tails about that.
Yeah, shit.
It's hilarious.
I think they actually
That's sad.
state this in the Conversations with God book at some point, though, that it's context is the measure by which you can judge intelligence or awareness, cognition. Humanity is, like I've said before, artificial intelligence. The key to making artificial intelligence is applying a contextual framework.
And that's why I feel like I've been constantly reminding also the people that I have trouble communicating with the most is my family. I feel like I have to remind them all the time to stop blanketing and stop generalizing and stop, you know, everybody's doing that nowadays. Everything is so polarized, and not in just a political sense, but a lot in a political sense. And, you know, people are choosing their politics as if that's a religion. It's ideology at this point. It's ideology at this point. And so when you start changing politics into ideology, shit's gonna get weird. And it already has. And people start blanketing, but these people, and it's like, no, case by case basis, whatever the issue is.
A political standard. Like, religion and politics, there's no difference. There never has been. There's no separation of church and state.
Yeah, but
religion,
it kind of
politics,
seems...
law, it's the same thing. Religion, the concept of religion is the application of law, of a morally viable set of laws and judgments.
Well, that's what religion is for. It's for controlling masses of people. I mean, you have to be able to...
And that's a question the atheists raise a lot, is do we think that religion was, you know, designed to manipulate people, or that it was something that's just inherent in us?
The best way to control people, or to trick people, or to scam people, or whatever, is while you're feeding them the bullshit, throw in nuggets of truth. Everybody fucking knows that. Yeah. That's how these con men get away with, like, doing crazy shit. So there is bits of truth within this ideological
there are
experiment,
very bits of truth.
You know?
The Bible is full of truths, and what that is right there, how they do that, as we'd say in spot casting, that's anchoring. That's giving a value that's true, that's real, that's going to catch somebody and hold them to the aspects that you've attached to it.
For the purpose of manipulation, honestly.
That's what we have to think, that religion is designed for manipulation, but, I mean, the question is the concept of religion, or the design of religion, inherent in us? Is it something we've always had just out of nowhere? And I think that's where their very concept of God comes from. The concept of us having come from out of nowhere. The concept of the fucking Big Bang.
Well, obviously,
in science and scientism is going to be an impulse without a point of origin. The just creation of everything from out of nowhere. That's our
a big
standard
empty
answer.
Blank spot that people feel like they need to fill in with something or another, which I can completely empathize with. That makes sense. I mean, of course, you know, that makes perfect sense. But the most effective way of manipulating people, especially masses of people, is to throw them the nuggets of truth that they can see in their own lives and their own families and their own emotions and their own psychology.